So, um, imagine for a second that you're a tech executive living in San Francisco. You're earning top dollar, right? But you feel completely just trapped.
Yeah, totally trapped.
Every single day is this battle with gridlock, uh, exorbitant state taxes, and a cost of living that somehow makes a multi-million-dollar salary feel uh, surprisingly tight.
Which is wild to even think about, but it's the reality.
Right. Now imagine that same executive trading their entire Bay Area commute for a private, like off-market lake house in Indiana, and they're saving thousands of dollars a month while doing it.
It's a massive shift.
Exactly. So today, we are opening up the playbook on one of the most fascinating microeconomic shifts happening right now. For this deep dive, we've got a really incredible stack of sources.
We do. Lots of hard data today.
We're talking comprehensive market data, portfolio insights, and real estate strategies straight from Cara Conde, who is a top-tier FC Tucker realtor and broker based in Zionsville, Indiana. Our mission here is to unpack this massive 2026 central Indiana real estate boom.
And what's fascinating here is that we are looking at an absolute masterclass in shifting demographics. It's about creative wealth building and how this entirely new landscape of luxury investment is, being engineered in real time.
Right, in real time.
Yeah. It's this profound look at how one specific region in the Midwest became this giant magnet for coastal capital, and importantly, how strategic agents serve as the bridge between those two very different worlds.
Okay, let's unpack this, because whether you are, currently scouting a relocation for yourself, or you're looking for sophisticated ways to deploy your own capital.
Or even if you're just insanely curious about how macroeconomic forces can change a map overnight.
Exactly. This deep dive is going to offer you a very specific lens on market dynamics. The way I like to think about the 2026 housing market is it's like a massive high-stakes game of musical chairs.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. But instead of chairs, people are just scrambling for luxury homes and commercial plots in Indiana. We're moving way beyond that standard. People are moving for lower taxes narrative to figure out the actual mechanics of this new gold rush.
Well, to truly dissect this massive influx of out-of-state buyers into places like Zionsville and Carmel and Fishers, we really have to start at the bedrock.
The foundation.
Exactly. Because you do not attract 2026 luxury investment without a very sturdy, highly differentiated foundation.
Okay, so let's wind the clock back to the origin. Zionsville, Indiana. It was founded in 1852 by this railway speculator named William Zion.
Yep, 1852.
And the initial iteration of this town was purely functional. I mean, it grew up around the railroad tracks as a transport hub. One of the standout historical details from our sources, which I just found fascinating.
The Civil War connection.
Yes, Zionsville actually functioned as a vital junction point during the Civil War, relentlessly funneling essential supplies straight to Union troops. It was built on utility, logistics, and just raw industrial grit.
It was essentially an artery for transport. But if you look at the town's profile now, in 2026, it has executed this really profound metamorphosis.
A complete 180.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It transitioned from that rugged logistics hub to an absolute haven of historical preservation and natural beauty. I mean, today, the town is defined by these meticulously preserved brick-paved streets, vintage architecture, over 400 acres of parkland, and, of course, top-rated schools.
But see, here is where I want to push back a little, or at least pose a challenge to the whole concept.
Okay, let's hear it.
It seems to me that this hyper-focus on historic preservation inherently clashes with the rapid modernization you need for a booming population. I look at this transformative phase the sources describe.
Right, the balancing act.
Yeah, this intense commitment to preserving 19th century brick streets while absorbing a 21st century influx of people. A lot of towns were just, paved right over the bricks to accommodate the traffic. Doesn't this artificial capping of the infrastructure hurt them?
See, that's where the real estate mindset flips the script. In this specific market, historical scarcity is the modern amenity.
Wait, the scarcity itself is the amenity.
Exactly. It's an economic moat. An economic moat relies on a competitive advantage that competitors can't easily replicate. I mean, a developer can build square footage anywhere. They can replicate infinity pools, smart home tech, whatever.
Right, you can buy that anywhere.
But they cannot replicate authentic, 150-year-old provenance. By fiercely protecting its heritage, the town makes sure its real estate remains a finite, non-reproducible asset. The rapid modernization, like the high-speed digital infrastructure, the advanced plumbing, the high-end commercial spaces, all of that is carefully engineered to happen behind the historic facades. So they're offering the frictionless convenience of 2026 while completely monetizing the aesthetic of 1852.
Wow. monetizing the aesthetic.
Yeah.
That totally sets the stage for the massive geographical shift we're seeing in the data. Because the 2026 migration isn't just a trickle, it's a highly targeted exodus.
The numbers are staggering.
They really are. The sources paint a stark picture of where this capital is actually coming from. We are tracking buyers from San Francisco, actively relocating to Carmel. We have residents of Antioch, California, moving to Fishers.
And the financial calculus for those coastal buyers is just so aggressive. The data highlights that an Antioch resident moving to Fishers is suddenly saving between $1,500 and $3,000 every single month.
Just in pure living expenses.
Right. And for a $725,000 price tag, they're acquiring expansive square footage, acreage, and a level of luxury that simply does not exist at that price point anywhere on the West Coast.
And it's not just California. We're seeing a parallel wave from the Midwest's own high-tax epicenters. Illinois buyers are fleeing places like Barrington, Hinsdale, Naperville.
Extracting their equity from Cook County.
Exactly, pulling it out and deploying it directly into Zionsville and Fishers. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. I'm reading these real estate blogs in our sources, and they lean heavily on phrases like hitting the jackpot or trading traffic for tea times.
It's a classic marketing speak.
Right, it's very kitschy. But stripping that away, transplanting your entire life from the California coast or the Chicago suburbs to central Indiana, that is a monumental culture shift.
Oh, absolutely. It's a totally different world.
So is this migration purely a sterile financial play to dodge high tax bills? Or are these transplants actually integrating into the whole Hoosier lifestyle? Because those are two very different things.
That tension right there is exactly what dictates the long-term viability of any secondary market boom. And the mechanism kind of works in two distinct phases.
Okay, break that down for me.
So the initial trigger is almost always the spreadsheet. A buyer in San Francisco sits down with their financial advisor, looks at the state income tax, the property tax, the cost per square foot, and the math simply dictates a move to a tax-favorable state.
The numbers made the decision for them.
Right. The financial incentives open the door and get them on the airplane. But a spreadsheet doesn't keep you happy on a random Tuesday in February, right?
No, it definitely doesn't.
That's where the lifestyle closes the deal. When these buyers actually arrive, the sudden reduction in financial pressure creates, psychological space. They suddenly have access to 400 acres of parkland, top-tier schools, the ability to take a boat out on Geist Reservoir without fighting 2 hours of gridlock.
The tea times from the brochures.
Exactly. This surplus of time and capital allows them to actually engage with the community. They integrate because the Gudgeon just delivers a higher baseline quality of daily life without the suffocating overhead they left behind.
But because this influx of wealth is so immense, and these buyers are coming into a geography they really don't understand, they hit a wall.
Yep, they don't know the landscape.
I mean, an executive from Naperville doesn't know the micro neighborhoods of Zionsville. They don't know which lakefront properties are about to turn over. They need a local guide, like a hyper-local fixer, to translate their capital into actual assets.
And that is the exact friction point where a specialized broker becomes indispensable. Our sources position Cara Conde as that primary bridge.
Right. Her background is super interesting.
It really is. The sources describe it as an unfiltered journey from Oxford Code to Indianapolis crown jewels. She operates out of her Indianapolis offices and has built this reputation as a luxury home marketing specialist.
And a certified negotiation expert, available basically 24/7.
Exactly. But I want to look at her methodology here because the sources detail a really fascinating dual strategy. On one hand, she's deploying cutting-edge digital technology and aggressive data analytics to market these homes globally.
But on the other hand, her biggest triumphs are completely offline, like securing a private estate in Zionsville before it ever hits the market, or uncovering hidden waterfront gems on Geist Reservoir and Lake Santee.
Right, the off-market maneuvers.
It feels like a glaring paradox, doesn't it? If she's using all this global digital tech, why are her biggest wins secured completely off-market? Isn't there a fundamental tension between global digital reach and, analog who-you-know secret handshakes?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually the perfect visualization of the modern luxury transaction. Digital ubiquity and analog exclusivity, they aren't mutually exclusive. They are sequential steps in the same exact funnel.
Sequential steps. How so?
Well, the cutting-edge technology, the targeted global ad spends, the predictive analytics tracking search behaviors of high-net-worth individuals in high-tax states, That is the acquisition tool. It casts a wide net.
Okay, so it brings the frustrated California buyer into her ecosystem.
Exactly. It establishes her authority. But once that buyer is in the ecosystem, they absolutely do not want to be treated like a digital data point.
Right. They want the white glove treatment.
Precisely. A buyer holding $3 million in liquid equity doesn't want to participate in a chaotic digital bidding war on a public listing portal like Zillow. And simultaneously, the seller of a legacy waterfront estate values privacy above all else.
They don't want a drone flying through their living room.
No. And they don't want 50 random people walking through their home on a Sunday afternoon. They want a broker with a private network who can quietly match their asset with a fully vetted, high-capacity buyer.
So the technology scales the reach, but the guarded, hyper-local network engineers the trust.
You nailed it. That trust is required to execute those high-stakes, off-market transfers of wealth.
And we really have to recognize that this massive transfer of wealth into the residential sector doesn't just exist in a vacuum. I mean, capital doesn't just sit dormant in a primary residence. It constantly seeks yield.
Right, people need to invest.
These new residents need infrastructure, they need services, and they need places to deploy all that surplus capital, which naturally transitions us to the commercial real estate tidal wave that is running perfectly parallel to this residential boom.
The institutional and private capital flowing into the commercial sector of central Indiana in 2025 and 2026 is frankly staggering.
The sheer scale of the developments listed in the data is wild. You have Cadillac anchoring their Formula One headquarters in Fishers.
Which is huge.
Huge. You have the Pickler building massive state-of-the-art facilities in Westfield. You have transformative developments like Rex Park, funneling major commercial opportunities into Whitestown. We are talking about elite, global corporate brands planting their flags in the exact same footprint as these residential migrations.
It is a massive signal of deep institutional confidence in the demographic tailwinds of the region. But what is equally compelling is how private investors are navigating this boom. For example, Cara Conde's portfolio highlights a specific ambition to close $25 million in 2026 alone.
$25 million.
Right, and she's doing that largely by guiding clients through highly sophisticated commercial investment vehicles.
Let's actually break down the mechanics of those financial tools, because the sources list several strategies driving this development, and they can sound a bit like alphabet soup. First, they highlight the aggressive use of 1031 exchanges to funnel money into self-storage and early education real estate. How does that actually function on the ground?
So a 1031 exchange is a provision in the tax code. It basically allows an investor to sell an investment property and defer paying capital gains taxes as long as they reinvest the proceeds into a new property of like kind.
Okay, so tax deferral.
Right. Picture an investor who just sold a highly appreciated, heavily taxed commercial property in Illinois. Instead of taking a massive tax hit on the profit, they utilize Conde's network to roll that entire equity stack directly into a new-to-built self-storage facility in Westfield.
And self-storage is booming because of all the new residents needing transitional space.
Exactly. Or they roll it into early education real estate, which is widely considered recession-resistant.
Because working parents require childcare regardless of broader economic volatility.
Yep. The 1031 exchange allows them to keep their capital fully deployed and compounding without the drag of immediate taxation.
Okay, that makes sense. The data also points to the heavy utilization of SBA 504 loans and HUD 221-4 loans. I mean, these sound like incredibly dense bureaucratic instruments, but they are clearly unlocking massive development.
They're essentially the quiet engines of urban expansion. An SBA 504 loan provides long-term fixed-rate financing designed specifically for major fixed assets like land and buildings.
So it lowers the barrier to entry.
Yeah, it allows a business owner, say, someone looking to open a logistics warehouse, to capitalize on the post-supply surge, to secure a facility with a much lower down payment than conventional financing requires. It preserves their working capital.
And what about the HUD 221D loans? Our sources specifically tie these to single-room occupancy, or SRO, housing, which seems a bit contradictory when we're talking about luxury wealth.
Well, this is where we see the sophisticated matrix of city planning at work. A HUD 221 loan is a government-backed loan designed to finance the construction of multifamily rental housing.
Okay.
When a giant entity like Cadillac brings a Formula One headquarters to Fishers, it doesn't just bring elite engineers. It creates thousands of support jobs. Maintenance, hospitality, administrative, service roles.
Oh, and those workers need affordable places to live near these massive new hubs.
Precisely. So The SRO housing isn't just a scattershot afterthought. It is a critical piece of the infrastructure. You cannot run a Formula One facility if the workforce can't afford to live within a 50-mile radius.
So what does this all mean when you step back? Is there a unified master plan in central Indiana? Or is it just throwing everything at the wall? You've got F1 HQs sitting next to self-storage and SRO housing.
It's the definition of a maturing, robust urban ecosystem. Institutional capital and savvy local brokers recognize that a healthy local economy requires a diversity of housing and commercial spaces to sustain life at every income level.
It really is a masterclass in seeing the board 3 moves ahead. Think about the chain reaction here. An out-of-state buyer uses digital channels to find an agent. She secures them a private, off-market sanctuary. The financial relief of that move frees up their capital. She then guides them through a 1031 exchange, allowing them to dodge capital gains by purchasing a recession-resistant child care center, which is desperately needed because of the population boom triggered by corporate arrivals like Cadillac. Every single asset class feeds directly into the next.
It illustrates why the role of a hyper-local broker has evolved far beyond simply facilitating a transaction. They are actively architecting the community by connecting disparate streams of capital with physical infrastructure.
Synthesizing this entire landscape just gives you a completely new perspective on market forces. I mean, we started with William Zion in 1852, laying down iron rails to move Civil War supplies through a gritty logistics hub.
A totally different world.
And here we are in 2026, analyzing how that exact same geography has been engineered into a luxury real estate and commercial powerhouse, fueled by California tax refugees, complex tax deferral strategies, and highly guarded off-market maneuvers.
It really encourages a fascinating exercise for anyone paying attention to macro trends. If you're listening to this, it challenges you to evaluate the secondary markets in your own orbit.
Right, look at your own backyard.
Exactly. Where are the geographic moats hiding in plain sight in your own hometown? What are the recession-resistant asset classes in your community that are quietly absorbing out-of-state capital? The patterns unfolding in central Indiana are not an anomaly. They're a blueprint.
A blueprint that's being replicated across the country if you know how to decode the data. It definitely changes the way you look at the self-storage facility or the new child care center down the street.
Absolutely.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, there is a final, slightly provocative thought I want to leave you with, something for you to chew on long after we sign off today.
Let's hear it.
We explored how Zionsville took its 19th century railway charm and leveraged that historical scarcity to become a 21st century luxury haven. We saw how the quaint aesthetic actually serves as an economic moat to protect property values. But here is the lingering paradox. As the predictive algorithms cast wider nets and as global capital continues to unlock all these hidden gems of the Midwest, what happens when the secret is fully monetized?
That is the million-dollar question.
Will the massive influx of wealth and rapid commercial expansion ultimately erode the very charm, privacy, and affordability that sparked the migration in the first place? It's the ultimate catch-22 of discovery. Until next time, keep ticking.